Hello viewers, so welcome. It's my pleasure to welcome you to this lecture on the carbon cycle, the aquatic carbon cycle. Most times people talk about carbon cycle in the terrestrial ecosystem, but not much is discussed about carbon cycle as it occurs in the aquatic ecosystem. The carbon cycle basically involves how carbon moves from the atmosphere into the water and back to the atmosphere. Carbon is made available to the aquatic ecosystem in form of carbon dioxide. Now the carbon dioxide can get into the water through the air-water interface. The turbulence of the water usually mixes the atmospheric nitrogen or atmospheric carbon dioxide and makes it available to the living organisms in the water to be dissolved and available as dissolved oxygen. Photosynthetic organisms such as plants and the algae and phytoplanktons also play a major role in making carbon available as they carry out photosynthesis. The algae, the phytoplanktons, as they carry out photosynthesis, they produce carbohydrates that are stored up in their tissues. This carbon is then obtained by the zooplankton that feed on the phytoplankton. And then some other organisms also obtain carbon by feeding on various plant or plant parts, particularly in the mangrove environment. They can feed on mangrove leaves to get the carbon they need. When plants and animals die, the carbon is then introduced into the water. Also, when the animals defecate, they also introduce carbon into the water. The carbon that is introduced into the water is eventually decomposed by microorganisms. The decomposition of microorganisms converts the carbon that's stored up in these organisms into carbon dioxide, which is returned to the water and to the atmosphere. Some of the carbon becomes part of the soil and is retained as fossil fuel. Some are incorporated into the shells of some shellfish, such as the snails, aquatic snails, the clams, the mussels, and other organisms which use it to make calcium carbonate shells. The fossil fuel is in turn being utilized by man as they explore the oil and also produce carry out gas flaring. It returns the combustion of carbon, returns carbon to the atmosphere in form of carbon dioxide or carbon monoxide. The products of combustion basically results in the return of carbon dioxide back to the atmosphere. So basically that's how carbon is being circulated in the water from the algae and phytoplankton to the zooplankton, and then the zooplankton are eaten by fish, and then the fish and when the fish, the zooplankton and the phytoplanktons die, the carbon is being decomposed. The decomposition releases carbon to the water or to the atmosphere, so carbon returns back to the atmosphere through that means and also through the use of fossil fuel. Thanks a lot for watching. I am Dr. Gijo. I am a prayer Harry.